Welcome to I Take Your Point with your hosts, John and Lynn. In this segment, we're diving into yet another controversial story, the NFL's decision to have Bad Bunny headline the Super Bowl halftime show. For some, it's a bold celebration of culture and representation. For others, it's too far, especially since he performs primarily in Spanish and has been outspoken about immigration and ICE. So when the language and politics of an artist become part of the national conversation, what does it say about who gets to define American? Let's get into it. Add your comments and don't miss John's take at the end.
A lot going on this week with respect to the immigration topic. We've had a couple of big stories that are percolating with that. And so let's start and jump right in. One of the stories that caught my attention this week was the story of Bad Bunny and his selection for this year's Super Bowl. The Super Bowl in and of itself, for those of you who are in North America, knows that it is a American phenomenon that's spreading across the world right now. I think the NFL plays 7 or 8 games across the pond. I believe Ireland, England, and a couple other nations are hosting NFL games. So the NFL has become a global brand. And so the selection of Bad Bunny in some ways is laughable to how it is not laughable from the standpoint of what it is that the NFL is doing, because they're all about the brand and building the business. But it also sparked a huge outcry from the MAGA folk and what it is that they felt with respect to Bad Bunny being selected to perform at what they consider to be their greatest event in America. And so what say you about that, Ms. Lynn?
So I was reading this article, and one of the things that I thought was super interesting in the article was when you talk about MAGA, that one of the things they said was someone had said, and they tweeted out and said, he's been very critical of this administration. And my reaction was, and we live in America. That's one of the freedoms that we have. We can be critical of this administration. So you want them to remove him from the halftime performance because he's been critical of this administration. That's your only concern.
I think they have a couple of concerns.
Well, that was the concern that I looked at online that jumped out at me. I was like, okay. So that, again, that's part of being an American.
Yeah, I think the big thing was that he is known as, they call him the shit show hater. He is anti-ICE, which is the immigration part that I want to focus on. So Bad Bunny, for those who are not familiar with him, he is a global icon with respect to the Latino community in terms of entertainment. Bad Bunny is an individual who has made his bones speaking and representing and loving his culture. He's made his bones by being very political in a lot of the things that he says. He has come out against some of the policies from this administration. And so from that standpoint, he is one that would be anti the shit show. And I think for them, the NFL selecting someone like him was like a poke in their eye to say, how dare you select this guy who is from Puerto Rico, who we really don't consider a U.S. citizen, even though Puerto Rico is literally part of the United States in terms of the territory. How dare you select this guy who is anti-ICE, anti the shit show, to sing his songs, which are really not in English, a majority in Spanish. And we can't really understand what it is that he's saying most of the time when he's speaking or singing. So why are you making me feel uncomfortable and subjecting me to this during one of the most spirited and most watched events in the United States, if not the world? I think that's a part of what they have an issue.
I think it's interesting that just one part that you said about him speaking in Spanish and us not being able to understand. I can say that a lot of music, I have no idea what they're saying. It's more about the feel, the music, the beat, the vibe, in most cases that people aren't trying to listen to or interpret the lyrics. Another thing I was thinking about the NFL that I thought was interesting is last year they had Kendrick Lamar, and that was controversial. Prior to this, we've had this relationship with the NFL. And I will tell you, as a football fan, I would have a little notebook and write down first, second, third string. What do they do? What are their stats? Like, insane. But after their controversy with the kneeling and things, I broke up with the NFL for a long period of time because of the stance that they took. And the controversy around that just really made me back away from the NFL. I think it's interesting in the last couple of halftime shows, the people that they did select, because Kendrick Lamar was, like I said, very controversial last year, and now with Bad Bunny. What do you think about that? Or are they sending a message, and who are they sending it to, and why?
That's a good point. Well, the NFL halftime show, I think, jumped a shark several years ago when some of the acts they were selecting to do the halftime show were trash. And what ended up happening was Jay-Z's Roc Nation ended up taking over the selection of the entertainment for the halftime show. One of the things that did was it brought a lot of the culture back to the halftime show. Since then, you can see the selection. It started up with Jennifer Lopez back in maybe 2000, 2001. Bad Bunny was a part of Jennifer Lopez's halftime show. And so what Roc Nation did was they made a conscious effort to make certain that the representation of the performers looked like the players. And by that meaning that you had more diversity because of, I think we had like the Eagles. And I love the Eagles, but we had a sleeper halftime performance. That said, I think the Bad Bunny selection in some ways was Jay-Z, if not by extension the NFL, saying we need to own our shit with respect to the irony and the hypocrisy of what we consider to be an American tradition. Who gets to define what it means to be American? Are you saying that only Brooks and Dunn or only someone who looks a certain way can be the only individuals who perform at a halftime show?
Well, what I'm saying, John, is that, okay, Roger Goodell is still the commissioner. He was the commissioner during all the controversy. I'm trying to understand what was the impetus, what happened, because we all know it's always about money. Everything, no one has morals. It's all about that financial dollar. It's just curious to me, the decisions that they made. I mean, if you think about it, you talked about this last week, that we like to watch football and, the big, strong men, and a lot of them are black men that we watch. That was still the case during the kneeling, and they doubled down there. We don't care. But now all of a sudden, I'm hearing you say that they care. Like, why?
I think that the NFL is a business.
Of course.
And the NFL understands the individuals who are playing the game. They also understand the individuals who are watching the game. So in some ways, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, which is, I guess, what you do with cake. By that meaning that the NFL made a strategic partnership to say, we're going to bring on Roc Nation to help us solidify the black base or solidify the culture in terms of the Latino or black or brown base. At the same time, we understand that the individuals who we do business with, these corporations, they may not feel comfortable with the kneeling and the Black Lives Matters and all that stuff. We're going to still take their money because I believe that most of the owners of the NFL are pretty Republican and pretty pro-business. But what they understand is in order for us to grow this global brand, we may have to give up a little something. And by something meaning, I don't care if Bad Bunny is the performer of the halftime show, because what that means is he's bringing in 300 million eyeballs, which means that he's making me money. So him making me money trumps my racism.
Right. So I understand that. I guess people, they thought there's enough distance between, Kaepernick and everything that happened with that now they can make this strategic business decision, right? It's been how many years? 8 years since that happened. And so they're like, okay, well, people have probably gone past that, which, hey, we know as Americans, we have a short attention span. Maybe we have. And so now we can make a different decision. I just think it's interesting because it's the same leadership. It's the same administration from the first time, but now we're going to make these strategic decisions, which it's always been about money. And the same people that watch the NFL were the same people that were watching it when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, and you were like, kneel, and that will be the end of you.
I think a couple of things happened. I think you had Black Lives Matter happen during that time. I think the other thing that happened, and my time could be off, I think the other thing that happened was because they turned over the halftime show to Roc Nation. I don't know what the agreement is where Roc Nation has carte blanche to select whomever they want to be the performers, and how much of a veto power the NFL owners have to say, okay, we're not comfortable with this person performing. I don't think that Roc Nation would agree to that. I think they would say, we're not going to do anything to damage the brand. At the same time, I think they understand that from an artistic standpoint, white America did not have a problem with Kendrick Lamar initially because they felt that Kendrick Lamar was going to toe the company line and not say anything to offend middle America.
So he didn't do that. And so then you made the decision to now bring Bad Bunny, who has been extremely vocal. And you think that he's going to toe the line now? I'm
No,
confused.
I think Kendrick Lamar did punch them in the mouth with his
Yes.
performance. From that standpoint, it was okay, maybe we miscalculated here. That said, we do have this agreement with Roc Nation, and I don't know how much, again, veto power they have. I mean, obviously, they can do whatever they want to because they're billionaires. I don't know how much veto power they had with respect to when Roc Nation went to the NFL committee and said, hey, we're going to not only double down on what it is that Kendrick Lamar did, but guess what? You got immigration issues going on. We're going to select the most iconic Latino person who has spoken out many times about America's policies with respect to Puerto Rico. You know, he was at the forefront when it came to the treatment of Puerto Rico with Hurricane Maria and all those things that were happening to Puerto Rico. And so he's been anti-ICE a long time.
Right.
And so it is surprising to the degree that they did not go, are you sure you want to select this guy?
I think it's even interesting that the NFL decided to do a contract with Roc Nation. And say what you want to say about Jay-Z. I think he is one of the most talented, brilliant business people in the music industry. I have a lot of respect for him. So I would love to see that contract. Love it.
It's a great contract, obviously. I think the thing with Roc Nation is, and this is, you know, Jay-Z is very smart from the standpoint that he's in the room, but at the same time, he's trying to he's trying to play both sides too. Let's be honest. He's taking that check at the same time he's saying, I'm still a part of the culture,
Right.
and a part of the culture that needs to be heard. From that standpoint, now I'm not going to be so hard on Roger Goodell because I know that yes, he represents the man or he represents the ownership, but at the same time, it does take something to say, okay, guys, we got to sit here and let them have their moment. And all I need for you to think about is the millions and millions and millions of dollars that these guys are bringing us. So from that standpoint, I think the owners are okay with it.
Really, I don't want to get too far into that, but that was another reason why I had to take a break from football. It really just brought home to me that idea of owning the ownership. And I can say that with the Dallas Cowboys, the owner, I was like, that one. It just made me feel like there was this ownership, and whatever we can do to exploit these people, we'll do it as long as we get the money out of it. And so that makes sense to me because otherwise I'm like, if you think that Kendrick Lamar was something, I can't wait until February the 8th, 2026.
So the thing that stands out to me with the selection of Bad Bunny and his stance on immigration in terms of ICE, the administration, the shit show, has made it known that they're going to send ICE agents to the Super Bowl.
And that's another thing. This is going to sound horrible, but you know what? People don't like me anyway, so let me double down. That you're sending ICE agents to the Super Bowl. Do you know how expensive it is to go to the Super Bowl? Lynn would love to afford it to be able to go to the Super Bowl.
No, I don't think they pay for the Super Bowl, first of all, the ICE agents. But I do think from the standpoint of them going, the thing that jumps out to me is you set the stage for a lot of chaos that has the potential to go on. And you set the stage for them profiling individuals and arresting anyone who looks un-American. From that standpoint, if you think about who it is that Roc Nation has elected to be performers, you've had Jennifer Lopez, you've had Shakira, you've had Snoop and Dre, you've had Kendrick Lamar, you've had Usher, you now have Bad Bunny. So all of the individuals that Roc Nation have brought on are either black or brown. You know, so it's representing America in terms of our culture and allowing our culture to take center stage at the most wildly anticipated event of the year. The thing that I think jumps out for middle America, by middle America, I mean in Des Moines, Iowa specifically, is they have a problem with our version of American culture defining America. Because for them, the issue is not that Bad Bunny is Latino. The issue is that Bad Bunny is Latino and speaks and sings the majority of his songs in Spanish, and he's not assimilating to them. He's making them feel uncomfortable.
But audience, feel free to drop your comments, which I'm sure you will. We don't have an official language in America. And so, what is it? It's white. That's a language.
Jim Bob and Ramon would say it's white.
But that's not a language. Just like red is not a flavor of Kool-Aid, just so you know.
The hell is not. It is. It is to the black community. It's red.
What do you want? So it's we don't have an official language. I think that it's so interesting, and there's so much hubris in America that people have to assimilate to someone else's idea of what America is. And when you think about when America was formed, it was to get away from those restrictions and the oppression of England. And so it's like, okay, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. Not to get off on too much of the tangent, but always this whole ecosystem, this whole, like, I'm going to break away from this, and then I'm going to create the exact same thing. Lord of the Flies. Like, okay, we're here, but your basic instinct is to do the exact same thing. Someone has to be in power and someone has to be powered over. That literally didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm talking about.
You said something a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Gen Z, specifically when we were talking about these white males who are feeling that something is being taken away from them.
Yes.
And I think what they're talking about is what you just said, that they get to define what America is and who America is.
Love it.
They are the ones who set the standard. And how dare you come in here in my house, in my Super Bowl, when I'm trying to watch a Doritos commercial and I have to read subtitles to understand what it is that you're saying so I can find out whether or not I can be offended by what it is that you're saying.
That's a really good point, John. And I will say that for me, living in Texas, even though I grew up in Southern California and, I took Spanish all the way up until my senior year in college, I remember being in the store and all the announcements were in Spanish. And I was like, what? And so I had to readjust my brain, like, what are they talking about? But I thought it was interesting that everything was in Spanish. And it was a little jarring at first, but then I had to check myself. When I go to another country, I don't expect, even though they can, because they are more educated than we are, they can speak English, that I expect if I go to Italy for them to respond to me in English. Why? If I go to Mexico, I want you to respond to me in English. I'm in your country, and you actually have an official language.
Here's the unspoken aspect of all this. How dare you, Latino, come in with your culture, with your language that I can't understand, that I would need to then try to understand, is going to make me feel uncomfortable. You are telling me your history or your version of what America is. I don't care because it's not my history or my version of America. So, immigration and entertainment. See, to understand why this is happening now, we have to zoom out. This isn't about one artist or one football game. The Bad Bunny Super Bowl controversy is a flashpoint in a much larger, ongoing American culture war. We've seen similar battles erupt over everything from the Barbie movie to songs by Jason Aldean. These events become stand-ins for much bigger and more difficult conversations. The Super Bowl in particular has a long history of being treated as America's biggest secular holiday, symbol of national unity. For decades, the halftime show featured broadly appealing rock and pop acts. But as the country's demographics have shifted, the NFL has tried to keep up, bringing in artists like Jennifer Lopez, Shakira, and then hip-hop artists like Dr. Dre, Snoop, and Kendrick Lamar. Each of those choices was met with their own small controversies, and they triggered cultural anxieties. But Bad Bunny's selection is the NFL's biggest step in a different direction. He isn't just an American artist who happens to be Latino. He's a Latin American artist whose identity and Spanish language music are the keys to his global stardom. To his supporters, putting him on America's biggest stage is a powerful statement of inclusion, a recognition that the U.S. is a multilingual, multicultural nation. As many has pointed out, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, which makes Bad Bunny an American performer. But to his critics, he's a threat. His Spanish language performance and his history of political criticism are seen as a rejection of a more traditional, English-speaking, white American identity. The argument is that the average halftime viewer in Des Moines, Iowa doesn't speak fluid reggaeton. The fight is over who gets to define what is American culture. The controversy shows that this is a battle over whether or not the American stage must demand assimilation
or whether it can reflect the country as it actually is. So let's go back to the original argument. How did a halftime show turn into a culture war? Well, it happened because the NFL, chasing a global audience, chose an artist who refuses to separate his art from his identity. They picked Bad Bunny, a U.S. citizen from Puerto Rico, whose music is a form of cultural and political expression. In doing that, they accidentally put one of the world's biggest pop stars right in the middle of America's most heated debates about immigration, national identity, and what it really means to be an American. The political backlash shows just how high the stakes are. This controversy was never really about Bad Bunny. It's about a nation struggling with its own changing face and who that face can and will be. Bad Bunny isn't the cause of the culture war. His presence on the Super Bowl stage is just a symptom of a deep division that we already have. And it leaves us with one final question. If America's biggest stage for unity can become a political battleground, then what common ground do we have? Thank you for spending some time with us today. While you're out this week, make some time to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, take the time to do something nice for someone else. Until next time, we'll talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in to another lively conversation on I Take Your Point. This podcast is a production of the SME LLC Media Group. All rights reserved. If you are enjoying the show, hit the subscribe button in the top right corner. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and check out past episodes. Until next time, take care and be well.